So today we'll review, there's an exam, in-person exam on Friday. Right now there's 8 questions. There won't be more than that, but there might be less. The take-home portion of the exam went up, I think Saturday or something. And it's due this Sunday. And Wednesday, you can bring the take-home portion or bring it up on your computer. And we work on it. You can help each other, but each person needs to have their own. Any questions? Be able to explain and give examples of qualitative data, quantitative data, discrete and continuous. So there might be a question that says, what is the difference between qualitative data and quantitative data? Give examples. Or what's the difference between discrete and continuous, and give examples. Qualitative data is a quality, color, a type of dog, ice cream flavor. There's few cases where they are numbers, but in most cases they are not. Social security number, phone number. But for examples of qualitative, they would be examples that are not a number. Quantitative is a number, speed of a plane, height of a building, age, anything that is numerical, in the sense that finding an average would make sense. So zip code, phone number, social security number would not. Any questions on the difference between qualitative and quantitative? One way, quality for qualitative, quantity is a number, quantitative. Discrete. Discrete is counting numbers, like the number of registers in a store, the number of people in this room. It's not going to be a decimal or a fraction. Number of televisions sold on Black Friday. They're not going to sell part of a television. So those would be counting numbers, no fractions or decimals. Continuous has all the fractions and the decimals. Most common, weight, height, length, or time, those could all be in decimals or fractions. We could have class for an hour and a half. The weight of the table could be 10.2 pounds. My height is a foot 2 inches. So fractions and decimals are continuous, discrete is counting. Any questions? There will be a box and whiskers plot where I'll ask you different parts of it. For instance, find median, range. I think I only asked like 3 or 4 things, but find median, range, 75th percentile, 25th percentile. What percent scored above 10 and what percent scored below 17? So questions like that. What would the median be? Anyone? Median is your middle number. And so the median would be the middle value inside the box, which is 17. Remember, this first one is your lowest value. This is your lower quartile, your median, your upper quartile, and your largest value. So the median would be 17. The value in the middle. How do you find the range? Largest minus smallest. Our largest is 32, our smallest is 5, so if we subtract them, we have the range. 75th percentile. These dots, there's 25% between each one. Percentile is the percent below. So this would be 25, the next one would make it 50, the following one would make it 75. So for those who are online, this middle is 25%. So 25, 50, 70. This value, 20, has 75% of the data below it. So 20 is the 75th percentile. Now, there is an example. I don't know if it's this problem or the normal curve, but you need to be able to explain what that is, what one of the percentiles is. The 75th percentile, see, this is points scored per game. So that means 75% of the points scored, total points scored, were below 20. So it's telling you the percent below it. So 75% of points scored per game was below 20. The 25th percentile means 25% of the scores are below it. So we would start here, and this would be 25%, so 10 is the 25th percentile. Any question? If we want what percent scored above it, and this one might see, what scored above a 10? This would be 25, 25, and 25. 3/4. The 75% of the players scored above 25. And what percent scored below 17? 17 is here, which is 2 sections or 2/4, which means 50% of the players scored below a 17. Or the 50th percentile was 17. Any questions? So there will be a box plot, and I'll ask you something. Any questions on explaining percentiles? Just that percent was below, in this case, the score. Okay, the average on an exam was an 84 with a standard deviation of 5. Draw a bell-shaped curve. It could also be called a normal curve. Now, normally I don't give the percents, but I did put them on there. So you don't have to memorize these percents. They're already on there. But you do need to fill in the bottom portion. Remember, notice we have the middle value here, and then we go 3 each way. So the mean goes in the middle, and then you add by the standard deviation. So this middle value here would be 84, and then we add by 5. So 89, 94, and so on. And you go 3 each way. 2, 3, 1, 2. So the percents for the curve will be given, but you'll have to put your middle value and add by 5 going one way and subtract by 5 going the other. Mean goes in the middle and you count by the standard deviation. What percent of students scored below 79 on the exam? So see where the 79 is and count the percents below it. 79 right here, so we have 13.6, 2.1, and 0.1. So 15.8% of the students scored below a 79. So the 15.8 percentile, 79. Any questions? I said it. What is the 15.8 percentile on the exam? To find a percentile, you would start at the bottom one. And just keep adding the percents until you get 15.8. 0.1 and 2.1 is 2.2. Add the next one and you'll get the 15.8 percentile. So 79 is the 15.8%. Any questions on that? What percent of students scored above a 94 on the exam? Anyone?
2.2%.
Because we took, look where the 94 is, there's a 2.1 and a 0.1 when we add it together, 2% of the students scored above a 94. On the in-person portion of the exam, if there's a blank space, you can just fill it in. Unless it says explain, then you'll need to explain after. But if there's no blank line, then you need sentence. But there's a lot of ones where I just want the answer. Any questions? So this semester, I don't know why, I decided to do the percent. Any questions on the normal curve? So you just have to be able to put the mean in the middle. Now, if I ask you one like the 94 and you don't have 94 on the bottom, then you did something wrong. So that helps also. Electric bill. Right now, there is electric bill on there. How do we find the kilowatt hours? Look at how much was used and just subtract them. Because it's telling you in September you had 67,100. October 68,500. If I subtract them, it tells me how much I used then. So the rock used 1,400 kilowatt hours. Any questions? Write an equation for cost. Y when X kilowatt hours are used. The equation would not be given on the exam. So you would need to know that it's a linear equation and be able to find the slope and the y. So the equation would not be given. Y equals mx plus b. You need to know that. The cost of electricity, notice the first one doesn't have per kilowatt hours. M is a rate. So M needs to be with the kilowatt hours, where B is the fixed amount. It's $12.52, no matter how much you charge. So $12.52 is the fixed cost. It's your B. The other ones make up the slope. So we would want to add those together to find the slope. We get y equals, if we add those, we get a half or 0.5. So our slope is 0.5, b is 12.52, y equals 0.5x plus $12. So this would be a linear equation. Explain the slope from part B in the words of the problem. So the slope was the 0.5. That was in dollars. You could also write it as cents. So 1 is kilowatt hours, and this is our increase in money. So start with X. X was kilowatt hours. Each additional kilowatt hour, the cost goes up by 50 cents. Because it's your change in X and your change in Y. X is kilowatt hours, cost is. Any questions? You'll definitely, I don't know what problem, but there's going to be one where you'll have to explain the slope, whether it's in the electric bill or elsewhere. Any questions? But whenever I have a problem, I always put my X and Y, this part here, kilowatt hour would cost, and then my money, so then I can see this is going up by 1. This is going up because it's positive by 50 cents. Any questions? Y. The y-intercept, remember that was our b, which was the 1252. Y-intercept is when x equals what? 0. So if x is 0, x is our kilowatt hours, which would mean we use no kilowatt hours, but we still have a cost of $12.52. So your fixed cost is when your x value is 0. So if we have no kilowatt hours used, the cost is $12.50. Any questions? Usually, I don't know if you have, depending on if you live at home or with someone, if you have electric bill, the fees are usually all over the place. And they don't want you to find them all, but they usually have the equation also. Okay, what is Dwayne's cost this time? Well, we have the equation 0.5x plus 1252. If we want to find his cost, what do? Plug in the kilowatt hours that he used. Use the kilowatt hours from part A, plug it into the equation from part B, and you'll have the total amount of kilowatt hours. So we use $712.52 would be the cost. Any questions? This one does have more parts than the rest of it. If Fred makes 80,000 this year, how much will he pay in tax? So the first thing you want to do is find where the 80,000 is and then go across and follow what it says. So go ahead and find it. What row is the 80,000 in? It's the third row. Right here, 80,000 is between these two values, so we're working with the third row. So we want $4,453.50 plus 22% of the amount that went over. So we know 80,000 was in between here. We only played 22% of the part that knocked us into this, and that's why you subtract the 38,700. Any questions on that? So when we subtract it, we're only paying 22% of the 41,300. Then just calculate it. And he needs to pay $13,539.50. There's a lot of write-ups that come up before. They increased one this year. If you're married filing joint, you get 27,700 taken off before you find out what tax table you're in. I don't think it was that high. Any questions? Be able to show or explain a scatter plot and trend line depending on the plot value, similar to the Smarties homework. Or group assignment. If R equals 1, all the points are on the line. And because it's positive, the line is increasing. So if you have R equals 1, all the points are on the line. Now, as you get closer and closer to 0, notice they spread out a little more. But if R is positive, the line should still be increasing until you get to 0. It's usually 4, because the points are all over the place. These are spread out a lot, but you still can kind of tell it's going up. This one's just all over. When R is negative, the line goes down, and the closer it gets to -1, the closer they are to the line. If you have -1, then all of the points are on the line. Any questions on that? So if I asked you, explain the scatter plot and the trend line when R equals 1. The trend line is increasing from left to right and all the points are on the line. Or something like that. If R is 0, the points are all over the place and the trend line is close to horizontal. Any questions on that? What is the difference between linear and exponential growth? Linear grows by the same amount every time. And so the electric bill was growing by 50 cents every time. So it was linear. Exponential usually grows by 1% because it's compounding. So it grows by 1%, the amount changes each time, and the equation is y equals the initial amount 1 plus R, 1 plus trip to the X, and X is time. You could use T there for time if you want. But both of these formulas you need to know, they will not be given. Any question? You deposit 500 into an account and make $20 interest per year. Answer the questions that follow. Write the equation for the amount after X years. So if you're depositing $500 into an account and make $20 interest per year, probably should ask, is it linear or exponential? Because it's growing by the same amount each time, $20 each year. So it's linear, y equals mx plus b. What would m be?
20,
M is the 20 because it's 20 per year, so it's the rate, which means 500 is b. So we're using y equals mx plus b. Y equals 20x plus. How much is in the account after 13 years? So if we want to know how much is in the account after 13 years, do we plug 13 in for x or y? Well, think back here, this is $20 per year, which means X is years. So when you're not sure, go back and look, well, I also have it here. But, years, it's 20 per year, which means X is years. So we would plug in X. Yeah, it's 706. Because there's a blank, you can just fill in the blank. If that was not there, you'd need a sentence. Any questions on the linear? So it's linear because it was growing by the same amount each time. You deposit 500 into an account and make 7.2% interest per year. Linear or exponential? Exponential, because it's growing by 1%, so then the rate or the amount you're making each time is different. Remember exponential, you need y equals the initial amount times 1 plus r. What do we have to remember when we're plugging in r? Treat it as a decimal. How do you get 7.2% to a decimal? Divided by 100, or move the decimal to the left 2. And our initial amount would be the $500 deposit. Now, you don't have to have 1 plus, you could just add them, 1.072 would be fine also. Any questions on the equation? How much is in the account after 13 years? X is your time. So we plug 13 in there. Please check it in your calculator. When I was grading homework, a lot of students, if the equation was right, they plugged the 13, but then they had the wrong answer. So make sure you know how to use your calculator. You should be getting $1,234.53. And that's the total amount at the end. It's including the 500 because we use the 1 plus. Any questions on it? I will have my calculators for the exam. I forgot to bring them down today. Any questions? When Joe's bill comes in December, the balance is $800. He decides to make monthly payments of $100 for December, January, and February. Then you will see what he owes and maybe try and pay it off in March. The monthly rate for his credit card is 9.3%. Bill on the table below. Now, this part would be given. Because when you have a credit card, the interest is 0. Remember, you take your balance, add your interest, and he's gonna make $100 payment. So we have $800, 0, because that was the interest. If you pay a credit card off as soon as you get it, or within that 30 days, you don't owe any interest the first time. Subtract 100, he only needs to pay interest on the $700. And the interest was 9.3%, written as a decimal point. So $65.10. Now, what you have to be careful of is he's only making $100 payment. Sometimes your interest is higher than your payment. So then it still grows. So February, take your $700, add the interest you made, the 65. Well, you didn't make it, but they made it. Minus the $100 payment, $665.10. The $665 is what you need to pay interest on. So he's paying $61.85 for February. Any questions on that? Go ahead and do the next one. So you're taking each time your balance plus your interest and subtract your payment. There's either a credit card or a savings account. For the March, we take the $665 from February plus the interest from February and subtract the $100 payment. March's balance is $626.95, which he needs to pay interest on, giving him $58.31. Any questions on that? How much is needed to pay it off in March? Any month, if you wanted to pay it off, you have to add across. So March would be the $626 plus the $58.31. If he was gonna pay it off, he'd have to pay $685.26. If he paid that, then there would be no more interest as long as it was on. So there will be one, either the credit card or savings account. For some reason, I think this is the only one in the outline, so then probably this one. Don't remember seeing yet. Any question? You're buying a home for $180,000 and take a loan for the entire amount. If annual interest rate is 6.5%, find the payments for a 30-year loan using the formula. So the formula will be given. E is the amount of the loan. So in this case, 180,000. R is the rate as a decimal. So divided by 100. And Y is the number of years. Most loans are 30 for a house or 15. Now, I recommend calculating the top, calculating the bottom, and then dividing them. But if you want to do it all at once, that is fine also. just when you do it in parts, not that you have to write the whole decimal on your test, you could put 0.856. But use the whole decimal in your calculator. Because if you round, then you could end up with different values. So keep the entire decimal. You should be getting $1,137.72. And so any questions on plugging it in? You don't have your calculator with you today, but you're bringing it next class. Make sure you try this. I don't. Does anyone need a calculator? Oh, you know what? Someone left this in class. That was my other class. They have all the answers. You should not leave your calculator in class if you're going to have a cheat sheet. Anyways, I do have a calculator if someone wants to try. I know it was my other class in the middle. They were in groups, I don't. Anyways, any questions? Is everyone getting $1,137? On the exam, I won't ask for the total that you paid and find the interest. I just want to make sure you know how to use the formula. I also have effective rates there, so make sure you know how to use your formula. The first one is for compounded amounts. C is the number of times it's compounded in a year. So monthly, 12, quarterly, 4, semi-annually, 2. It will be one of them. If it's compounded continuously, that's when you use e to the r minus. Find the effective rate of 6.5% with each compounding. So 6.5% compounded monthly. Monthly, it said, was 12 times, 12 months in a year. So C is 12 and R is your percent as a decimal. So when you plug it in, 1 plus 0.065 divided by 12 to the 12 minus 1. If your calculator puts the 12 up in the exponent, make sure you move down before you subtract 1. If you have a caret, and then the 12, you won't need to put any parentheses. You should be getting 0.06697. I said round the percent to the 100th. You need to make it a percent first by multiplying by 100 and then round. So to round this to the 100, that's where the 9 is. Because this is a 7, the 9 will round up and make this 70. I would like to see the 0, so I know that you rounded to the 100th and not to the 10. So wherever you're rounding, if it's a 0, still show it. Technically, you don't have to, but it is a significant figure. So in a different course, you would need it. Any questions on it? So it'll either be monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually, the first part. Remember, quarterly is 4 times a year, semi-annually is twice. So it's either monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually. And they should be close. What was it, 6.5%, 6.7? Compounded continuously, that uses the second formula. Now, if it doesn't go up into the exponent, puts a caret and a parenthesis, make sure you close the parenthesis before you subtract the 1, and you should get. Make it a percent first. 1 is going to become a 2. 6.72%.
Get that EOR on the calculator, is it LN? Second,
Second first.
second,
So to get the e to the x, it should be where your natural log ln button is. It's like to the top corner. So you hit second and ln, and that should. Any questions? So these two and the house payment are definitely on there. I want to make sure you know how to use your calculator. Any questions? The take home portion is here. Rather work on it. Wednesday though, so make sure you come Wednesday. I'll have measuring tape so you can measure everyone's arm span and height. Make sure you bring your computer so you can plug the values in. There's only the 3 questions. Is there any questions on the in-person portion?
mid points is the in-person one, worst, word.
Good question. I think it's 50. And the take home's 30. But if I take some of the problems out, it might go down. Right now, there was 8 questions. There's definitely a normal curve and a box plot, you have to answer questions. This one, I was thinking of taking some parts out, like tax table is definitely on there right now. Linear and an exponential problem, definitely there. The house payment, like 2 and 3 here, I put those together as one. So this would, 2 and 3 would be one of the 8. Is there any question? Anything you need to see more of? Any questions on the project? Or the homework, which was due yesterday? But there, well, I have to look through them this morning when I get to now. No questions? I'll let you go. Well, you know what I want to do? I wasn't going to tell you till after. I mean, after the exam. But anyways, next, after the exam, there's 3 chapters we're supposed to cover, and I will cover some of them, because this is my favorite section, probably. But instead of a final exam, I was thinking of a group project. And I'll put all the details up there. I want you to take your exam. But if everyone can come next Monday so that you can get into groups, if you don't come and you don't have a group, then that's your problem. Usually what I do is you have to take material from 5 or 6 chapters. So if you're doing it by yourself, you have to do all 5 or 6 chapters. You'll find a Fortune 500 company or a company that's been around for 10 years. And then say you were trying to sell your company or get someone to join your company, you're gonna make a presentation for it. You're gonna use 5 to 6 of the chapters. And, if someone's alone, then they have to do all of them. If you have 2 people, then you each do 3. If you have 4 people, then you each do 2 chapters. So then less work if you have a group. The thing, I'm not big on group projects like that because, you know, you always have that one person that does nothing. But since you each have your own chapters, then we just drop out their chapter. So if you do get in a group and you have someone who's doing nothing, then they do nothing and you do yours and I only grade you on yours. So don't worry about it. So that way then you don't have that pressure. I know we've all been there. Son had one. They were a group of 7 and this one kid, they couldn't get a hold. Oh, I dropped the class. Seriously? You're in a group, you can't let them know. But anyways, so things like that happen. And this way then those chapters just wouldn't get done. You just skip them. Any questions on that one? It worked out really well last semester. It was really nice seeing people up here talking about it. So you do have to present it. We'll present them the last week of class. Since this class has the co-rec with it, we have a lot more hours. We may not have to come finals week. Just depends on how many groups there are, so we'll see. So think about that, kind of think about who's going to be in your group if they haven't been here, but you're still working with them and you want them to be in there. That way you have more time to get a hold of them. And you will have time during class to work on it also with your group. Any questions? So this is your last exam. If you do not have any questions, then I will really do. My grandma's birthday. I will see you on Wednesday. Go through the material, see if you have questions or want to see extra problems for the part that's for the class. Then if you don't, or after we go over those, then you can work on the take-home portion again. If you do the attendance sheet, over here. Try and stay dry.
Mrs. J, I'm so confused right now. Is the exam on Wednesday or Friday?
The exam is on Friday. The take-home portion, you can work on it on Wednesday in class.
Okay, thank you so much.
So the in-person is on Friday during class, but Wednesday you can work in groups and help each other and ask questions.
Okay, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Those who are online, do you have any questions?